All right, Pete, Man City are the latest club to join the race for Ryan Cherki's signature. We've spoken a lot about his potential move this summer, which seemed like it was all but a guarantee with Lyon's financial struggles and obviously the potential of the player. We know Kevin De Bruyne is leaving and will always be impossible to replace, but could the Lyon star be a good place to start for Pep Guardiola?
Yeah, he could be a good option, Cherki. He's an outstanding young player. I think obviously we've seen bits and pieces of him, probably more in the Europa League. He scored twice in those two games against Manchester United, but he's been talked about for such a long time now as one of the best up-and-coming young talents in Europe. The key probably to this potential move is how cheap he could actually be. He's got a low buyout clause of around £20 million in his contract at Lyon, which for me would make him one of the bargains of the summer. We know Manchester City are looking to rebuild their squad. They're looking to add a bit of creativity into that final third with Kevin De Bruyne leaving the club after his illustrious time at the Etihad. But Cherki, as I said, he has shown in those Europa League games against Manchester United that he can have an effect and influence those games. As I said, he's a versatile player as well. He can play on either wing, probably better as a number 10 for me, but yeah, he can play on the left, come inside on that left foot, score goals, create goals. So Pep Guardiola is looking to add a bit more to that final third of Man City. Cherki could be a real smart pickup, I think, especially at his age, 21 years old. He's only going to get better and better, and I think obviously with his release clause being so low, I think it could be a bargain for anybody who wants to sign him. And as I said, he could be the perfect fit for Manchester City. I'm sure he'll be relishing the opportunity to work under such a coach like Pep Guardiola and the chance to play Champions League football as well, which he's not going to get at Lyon either. So yeah, a number of clubs have looked at Cherki, maybe been a few question marks over his defensive work, but I'm sure Pep Guardiola would be able to get that improvement from him on that side of his game. But as I said, there's no doubting his productivity in the final third. He's got magical feet, good dribbler, and he can see a pass and score a goal as well. So at that price, I think any club would be foolish not to be interested in Ryan Cherki.
And Paul, Pep has bitten back at the rumors of problems between him and Jack Grealish. We know we've seen the moments of Jack leaving clubs and things like that at night, but obviously been a servant to the club for a long time. The rumors do continue to swirl around a potential exit this summer. What would be the best outcome for Jack Grealish and the club in terms of his next destination?
Well, listen, I think for Jack Grealish and for football fans in general, you want to see him back playing and enjoying his football like the Jack Grealish that he was when he left Aston Villa. To some extent, his natural talent's been coached out of him and he's been coached into a system. I think he's a top quality player. He's not had the best time of it this season at Manchester City, but he's an infectious character. He's the type of player that I'd love to have in the dressing room. He's a winner. He loves football. You see what he's achieved at Manchester City. That can never be taken away from him. He's gone to Manchester City. It was a massive move, a huge price tag. When you look at the trophies that he's got and what he's achieved there, it's been an exceptional time for him in his career. But I think the way that Pep left him out of the squad on the last day of the season, he knew that there were going to be questions. I mean, if you want to dampen the fire down and you don't pour fuel on the fire, you take him as part of the squad, you put him on the bench. The fact that he wasn't listed on the bench, he created a problem for himself. It's quite obvious. You don't need anybody else to look in and tell you that there's an issue between him and Jack Grealish. And I think for Jack Grealish to go out and to go and play football and to find his love for football again, the freedom that he plays with, the quality that he's got, and find a manager that's going to put his arm around him and say, look, you're going to play for me every week. And I think Jack's a better player when he plays every week. I think he's not relished the situation at Manchester City where he may get one or two starts and then if he hasn't scored a goal or 3 assists, he doesn't play again. Or if he doesn't come off the bench and he doesn't have an impact as in an assist or score, then he's rotated in and out the side again. I think he's the type of player who loves playing football, wants to play week in and week out, and he needs a manager that will do that, allow him to do that, and that will get the best out of him. There are going to be changes at Manchester City this summer. There'll be wholesale changes. We know that they spent big in January. We know that they brought a lot of players in January, and they will look to do that again in the summer and overhaul the squad. And for Jack himself and for the club, it may be the right move that he does go elsewhere and play regular first-team football. I just think the way that Pep handled it on the last game of the season, it probably wasn't needed. I mean, you've got the places on the bench. He's the type of player that is going to attract attention, and if you don't want questions about Jack Grealish's future, put him on the bench and it goes under the radar. There's obviously there is an issue there.
And Pete, Nottingham Forest seem resigned to losing Morgan Gibbs-White this summer after falling all the way down to the Conference League in qualification. Just weeks ago, it seemed like Champions League was in their future. How much would you expect Man City to be willing to, splash out on him? Could you see maybe even a swap deal? I know we always say that swap deals are tougher in the Premier League, but we know Nottingham Forest have had interest in James McAtee. Maybe even Jack Grealish, who we're just talking about, could be used in a potential swap deal.
Yeah, swap deals are notoriously hard in the Premier League, but look, we know that Morgan Gibbs-White is a major target for Manchester City this summer. They want to bring in a dynamic midfielder like Morgan Gibbs-White is to replace Kevin De Bruyne. Gibbs-White's had a very good season for Forest, 7 goals and 10 assists for the club, and obviously disappointment for Gibbs-White and for Forest to miss out on the Champions League on the final day of the season after that defeat to Chelsea. I don't think Forest are resigned to losing him, but just looking at his contract situation, he's under contract at the City Ground until 2027. If Forest don't cash in on him this summer, then his price tag will drop next summer and everything else. So from a business side of things, if they get an offer which is too good to turn down, Forest reluctantly might have to let Morgan Gibbs-White move on, and the player himself, I'm sure, will be chomping at the bit to try and move to a club that's playing in the Champions League. He wants to test himself at the highest level. As I said, the chance to move to Manchester City to be challenging for trophies, work under Pep Guardiola, I'm sure will be very enticing for Morgan Gibbs-White as well. Forest did spend big money when they bought him from Wolves. In 2022 it was around 42.5 million. So you'd probably be thinking Forest will be looking close to double that if they are to let Morgan Gibbs-White go this summer as well. I'm sure that's well within Manchester City's capabilities to pay that, but there is other targets as well that I'm sure City are looking at for that midfield role to fill the boots of De Bruyne. As you said, Jack Grealish potentially is a swap deal. I'm not sure Forest would get to the wages that Jack's on. It might cause a bit of unrest within the squad if they were to break their budget to try and get Jack Grealish in from Manchester City. McAtee, yeah, there's definitely interest in him from Nottingham Forest. Nuno is an admirer of the England under-21 international, and a bit like Grealish, he was surprisingly left out of the squad for the final game of the season at Fulham, which probably tells you that he doesn't figure in Pep's plans going forward in Manchester City, so he will probably have to seek a move away. But I just think there'll be a lot of competition for McAtee's signature. It won't just be Nottingham Forest who will be interested in him. There's a lot of interest from clubs in Germany, and I think there'll be a number of Premier League clubs who would also be interested in McAtee, because whenever I've seen him play for City, he's always done okay for me. So, but if City are to sort of rebuild that squad this summer as we expect, it might push McAtee even further down the pecking order. So yeah, there'll definitely be players coming in and coming out of City, and City will be hoping that one of those players is Gibbs-White if they can agree a fee with Forest.
You can see that with Nottingham Forest though, can't you? McAtee's more the type of player that fits into Nuno's system. You see the way that Nottingham Forest play. I mean, I watched them the last game of the season, and it's the first time that I've seen them dominate possession and want to go forward against Chelsea, because they knew that they had to win the game. But normally they're a team that are quite happy without the football. They sit deep and they play with pace on the counter-attack. And for Jack Grealish to fit in that system, that's not the type of game that he wants to play. He wants to be in a team that dominate possession. He wants to get on the ball. McAtee absolutely would fit in that system. Morgan Gibbs-White's a player who's gone from strength to strength, and as Pete said, now his value is going to be maximised this summer. If they don't sell him now, it's only going to drop in value. Champions League football, to keep players like him at Nottingham Forest, was going to be a must. You know, with FFP and PSR, we've seen the points deduction as well with Nottingham Forest before. They have to toe the line very, very carefully. He is a huge input of what they do. But the influx of money that he would bring would probably see them through a transfer window of restructuring.